So, today we'll talk about the future of personal development. I'll make a promise to you. Before the end of this presentation, I will show you something very cool. Most of you have watched The Matrix. If you remember, Neo, he learned how to do Kung Fu. The way he managed to do that, it was just by sitting on a chair, and they loaded the information, the new skills into his subconscious. And I will show you how to do that before the end of this presentation. So we're here today to learn about the personal development. And I couldn't start this presentation without mentioning my own story, without mentioning how I started in this sector. About 12 years ago, I went to meet my mentor, and he was sitting on a chair. He had like his leg hanging on the side of the chair, and he was reading a book. And I was like, how comes you're reading a book? And he told me, personal development, my friend, personal development, it's the future. And for that moment, I was shocked, because I was like, I want to be part of the future. I want to see what this future holds, because it was a person that I really respected. Personal development as an industry, it's currently it's worth 38 billion, and every single year it will grow by 5.1%. By 2027, it will worth nearly $55 billion. Now, we'll talk about personal development today, but we're not going to talk about the skills that you need to learn how to drive, or learning a new language, or even like working out. We'll go into the inner world that you learn through meditation, or going to personal development seminars, or even going to a life coach as myself, or maybe a psychologist, or maybe some therapist. So, get ready, we will jump into the future of personal development. So, before we go into the future, we need to go into the past. Just imagine that nearly 200 to 500 years ago, the future, it was so relevant. Back then, the doctors, we had like one doctor for a whole city or for a group of villages. And that doctor, he was the surgeon, he was the pharmacist, he was doing anything. He was like whatever you can imagine. Back in those days, if you had a bad tooth, the technique, it was simple. Tie a knot around your tooth, and someone was going to say, I'll count to 3, and then I'll slam the door. On number 2, they were slamming the door, the tooth was out. But as the technology started moving on, things changed. We created a need for all these different kinds of doctors, all these different kinds of specialists. Just imagine now, for the dentist area, we have 7 different kinds of dentists. The same thing happened like with the personal development era. Back then, we started with psychologists. It was the first people, it was the pioneers, the people who started looking into our psyche. Today, we will talk about the different kinds of personal development. I will talk you about different technologies. I will tell you about the different things, the different techniques that they exist, and how that influences our life. The first one we'll talk about is the Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Just imagine that NLP is the programming language of our brain. Just imagine that our brain has billions and billions and billions of neurons that they're connecting with each other, and it's giving us the ability to do different things, to talk, to move, to eat, to do whatever you can imagine. NLP, it's the first technique that came out that showed us how we can program our own self. Just imagine it's like a programming, like a coding language, but instead of programming a computer or a website, it's programming our brains. Now, because it's very important to explain a word or two before we move on the next technologies, I need to explain a few more things about NLP. Just imagine that this drop, it's our conscious and subconscious mind. if we divide the conscious, which the conscious mind, it's our logic, like me being able to talk, like thinking of what I want to say, me being able to observe. The subconscious, it's everything else, like the ability to digest, the ability to drive, all those things that you're doing without even realizing that you're doing. Like only 5% of that drop, it's our conscious mind. The rest of it, it's just our subconscious. Our subconscious mind is like 95% of that drop. The other one, it's just our conscious. The subconscious mind can process billions of times more than our conscious mind. Now, as you can see in the picture, there are some circles. Those circles, what they do is the different programs that we have. And when we say programs, what do we mean? It's our ability to brush our teeth, it's our ability to drive, it's our ability to read, all of those things. So different things that we learned through the years, they created some programs. Those programs in our subconscious is what makes us like to be able to move, to do the things that we want to do. Now, as you can see, there is a red line. That red line, it's our conscious mind's filter. Because when you're, for example, saying, you know what, I'm going to train my mind, I'm going to train my subconscious in order to learn new skills, our conscious mind filters which of those things are actually relevant and which of those things are not. Which of those things they will help us out and which of those things they will not. So just imagine that you're working on improving our learning the new skills, saying to yourself, you know what, I'm the luckiest person that exists. But your conscious mind is telling you, you know what, but that's not true. I mean, you never actually won a scratch ticket. How is it possible that you're the luckiest person? So what happens is, as you can see, there is the arrow coming down, and then the conscious filter is throwing it out. But when you're doing that for quite some time, what happens is eventually it allows it. When you're activating, though, yourself, so you're not just saying, I'm the luckiest person alive, I'm the luckiest person alive, but you're actually activating your nervous system. You're moving, you're giving passion, you're giving energy. Then your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, they are saying, you know what, maybe that thing is actually real. Maybe there is something that's happening. We need to give more attention, so it's easier to pass. Now we'll move on to see other techniques that they're doing something like that, that they are doing it even better. The next technique that we'll talk about, it's called emotional freedom technique, or otherwise EFT. This technique is based on the Chinese acupuncture. The Chinese, they believe that through our bodies, there were different channels of energy that they were moving around, that they were able like to tap into them by using a small needle. So the EFT comes and says, you know what, there are some larger paths of energy in our body that just by tapping our finger, you can release that energy. The first time I've heard about EFT, it was at a seminar. I went with a friend, and she shared with the group an experience she had when she was younger. Like some people, they were running behind her. She really got scared about her life. And after making a round of tapping and saying like some specific words that it's in the technique, it was the first time after a long, long time that she was able to think about it and not start crying. So this technique is helping you like to deal with your fears, your emotional trauma, maybe with anxiety, even with diabetes and other things. Now, another one of the technologies that came out and I really, really, really enjoy it, it's called mind movies. So most of us, I assume we've heard about the vision boards. What is a vision board? It was a piece of paper that you were posting like pictures on it, and those pictures, they were representing like the emotions of your goals, things that you wanted to achieve, things that you wanted to have in your life. And mind movies, it's slightly different. So it's more videos with some affirmations, so like some things that they're guiding your subconscious, with some music that it's triggering more emotions because your subconscious mind gets more information, so that makes you like to feel that, you know what, I'm getting more emotions out of it. So you're even able to get more things. Now, the next thing that we will talk about, it's about the neuroplasticity. Peter today, at his talk about procrastination, he did mention about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of our brain to create neural pathways, neural associations, and create, so all those neurons that I mentioned before, they are somehow connecting, and when they connect, they are able to help us to do things, like to be social, to talk, to move, to do whatever we want. So why it's called neuroplasticity? So just imagine that as the image on the left, it's like a clay. When we were kids, we used to play with a clay. So the fresher the clay, the easier to mold. And neuroscience, they believed until recent years that when you're actually a kid, your neuroplasticity, it's much higher. And that's actually true. But they believed that as you were growing older, your clay, it was getting tougher. It was getting harder to mold. And there was no way like to make it soft again. But we see research like Dr. Joe Dispenza's that they see techniques, they're using it, and they're seeing that it's easy. There are possibilities to make neuroplasticity, those connections, to happen again, and quite easily actually. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he made like at one of his seminars, actually at many of his seminars, they connected the participants with EEG, so they're measuring the brain activity, and when they were measuring their brain activity, they saw that after a couple of weeks of meditating, people, they managed to got their neuroplasticity back. Not like a kid, but it improved dramatically. Another technology that I really, really like, and it's very easy and fun to use, it's Lumosity. Lumosity, it's a website and an application on your phone that you're playing different games, and by time when you're playing it, it's helping you like to work with your memory, it's improving your attention, your speed of processing. So what does that do? It's at the end of the day, it's helping you to increase those things. So just by playing like for 5 minutes a day, that thing helps you. So it's just playing on your phone instead of spending time on social media. That thing, it's actually helping your neuroplasticity to get fit again. So the next technology, it's a very, 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 very fascinating one. It's from a company called HeartMath, and they created a device called emWave. We will mention that in a moment. So when we're still kids and we're in our mom's belly, the first thing that occurs is that we get a heartbeat. So we start to get our heartbeat, and our brain starts to function only after we get outside of our mom's womb. So what happens is people, they started thinking, why does that happen? And they realized that our heart has its own wisdom. It has its own way like to work and do all the different things. And the HeartMath Foundation, since 1991, they're making different research that shows that our brains is actually sending more information to our brain than our brain to our heart. This specific device called emWave, it's teaching you by using it like for 5 minutes each day, twice a day, how to get your brain and your heart in synchronicity. And as you can see in the image on the left, the only thing it requires is for you to hang one thing on your ear and another thing near your heart. People that they're using this device for quite some time, like for only like about 2 weeks, you are managing to get to a coherence level. What does that mean? When your brain and your heart, they're synchronizing, as you can see on the graph, your heart rate is way smoother. So it's not like irregular when you're frustrated. The research shows they tested it on around 3,000 to 4,000 people, and it showed that when you're in Coherence, they had 50% drop. They had 50% drop on fatigue, like 46% drop on anxiety, and like 60% drop on depression. This is like huge numbers, especially when we live in an era that there is so many people that they have challenges with depression. Our next technology that we'll talk about is subtle energy. Subtle energy now, before I explain what it is, we need to go again in the past. We all saw the different mandalas that they existed like for ages now. One of the things that many people maybe they don't know about is that mandalas, they have different information hidden inside of them. So this company, what they did, it was they got the technology from Mandala and they inserted subtle energy. Subtle energy is the energy that has information inside of it. So one of the things that they did, I'll show you later one of the mandalas, is that they got different devices. You know that our cell phones, our laptops, our air-conditioned tablets, everything, they have some frequency. That frequency is called EMF. So they measured that EMF, that frequency that was coming out from those devices, and then they inserted one mandala that it was to protect you as a user from EMF. And then that EMF technology went almost, that EMF frequency, it went almost to zero. So just by inserting an image on your phone. This is the different kinds of technologies that they have with subtle energy, the different kinds of mandala, the different kinds of video that they have. It might be like for your performance as an athlete, it might be about your brain, it might be about your relaxation, or even about your spirituality. This is an example of one of the mandalas. When they tested this specific mandala out, what they found out is that people that they used it over some time, they found out that they had increase of 33% of their overall oxygen level, just by looking on that picture or by running a video of this picture. So we got to the most exciting time for me, which it is for me to share with you the secret, how you'll be able to go and get that technology that they used in the Matrix, in a movie, and implement it into your own life. Again, I will need to share the first moment that happened. The first moment that happened, it was back in the 1957, when in order to watch a movie, you had to go like to very specific places. And when they got the projectors that they were quick enough, what they did, it was they inserted in one movie the words "eat popcorn, drink Coca-Cola." And they had that to be shown behind the movie for a split second. So your eye, it was not able to see it, but but your subconscious, it was still able to receive the message, to get the message. So during that movie, there was an increase of 17%, on the sales of Coca-Cola, and 58% on the increase of popcorn on the sales. So what we actually are here to learn, there is subliminal programming. So instead of going and reading something and then reading it again and again and trying to do it as an affirmation and try to get what you want to learn, there is now skills that you can learn, like learning easier a new language, being more social, learning sexual techniques, being a better investor, whatever you can imagine. How that works is you're just, while you're sleeping or when you're awake, you're putting your headphones or playing it like on a sound system, and because it's in a way that is masked, like your ear, like your conscious mind cannot understand what is being said, it's just going directly from your conscious mind into your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is just reading a sound that is like the waves. It doesn't understand what is being said. But actually, your subconscious mind, it has the ability to decrypt it and understand what is being said. So basically, it's like you're installing a new program inside your mind without even like investing a ton of time to learn the new skill. So how does that work? As I said, it can either be thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of affirmations that they're hidden behind a mask or an ultrasonic sound, or it can be just like sounds. So the different sound waves can also program your subconscious. These are some types of programs. Just imagine that there are people, so in order to get that program, in order to create that program, what people do, they're going out and they're researching all the different information that is needed. They're reading books, they're going and they're finding people that they're best at what they do, and then they're coming and they're creating these programs. For example, the last one, as you can see, it's about finances, about trading. So what they did, they went out, they found the best in that field, they interviewed them, and they came and they created that program. A client of mine, he used one program about procrastination, and he actually managed to double what he was making on each month. And the reason it was because the program helped him to go and do what he was avoiding to do. So what do those things have in common? They have one thing in common. So there's all these different technologies. But the main point is that our future, it comes to how fast we can get the information and create our subconscious program. So go from having it just on a piece of paper or outside of our head, put it in our subconscious and create that new program. So decreasing the amount of time. So instead of taking like years and years and years of practicing, people now, today, they're able to use this kind of technology to see results within the first couple of days or sometimes within hours. So, what is the future of personal development? In my hallucination, as the same thing happened with the doctors. As I mentioned before, 500 years ago, we had like one doctor that he was doing everything. Nowadays, we will need to have that one person who will come in and will do what doctors do today. We have the general practitioner, the GP, that you go to, you tell him what you want to, what your challenge is or what you want to achieve, and he's telling you, go and do this or do that, or you need to go to this specific person. So the same thing, it will happen in the personal development. We will have people that they will be extremely knowledgeable, they will be on top and up to date with all these new informations that they're going on. They will be extremely skilled, and they will be able to help you out to get what you want, to help you to get what you really desire. Now the question is, why do I need someone else and I cannot do it myself? The answer is simple. Basically, it's the same thing like when you want to build a house. Just imagine that when you want to build a house, you might have access to an AutoCAD on your own computer. But it doesn't mean that because you have the technology, you are able to build or to design the right thing for you. So, thank you very much. Much appreciated. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, thank you, Mihaly. We do have questions coming in. The first one is from Claudia Ords, and she's asking, this is a very interesting topic. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Michael. Can you recommend good books in the area of subconscious awareness? Thank you.
The answer is that there are different books. Like if you want to start and you don't have a background knowledge in it, the first kind of book that will be great for you to read, it will be based on NLP, the Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Personally, I recommend Richard Bandler, that he's one of the two creators of this specific technique. So if you don't have a previous experience, start from there.
Okay, we'll jump right to the next one. Michalis Damianou. In Cyprus, psychologists become also life coaches to cope with the increasing demand for personal development. Is it time to create a professional association to set standards and safeguard the interests of life coaches in terms of authenticity in delivering guidance to customers?
Actually, that's a great question. But currently, a professional association already exists that you need to go and show your qualifications, the number of hours that you worked as a life coach, and there is like an official list with different life coaches that exist. For me, in my hallucination, the life coaches and psychologists, they need to work together. They need to come together and help out and protect the different individuals that they want to help out, of course.
Okay, and next we have Noor Rimawi. She's asking, what's the process of the EFT technique?
So,
how can someone apply it?
So EFT, it's a very simple technique that it has like some points that you need to tap on with your finger. The first round of line that you need to take is to say what is the negative belief that you have about it. And then after you do that, you need to do 2 rounds of tapping with the positive one. So basically, because you cannot delete a belief system, but you can replace it, that's what it's been recommended.
Okay, perfect. And I think we have one last one. Yes, we do. It's Dasos Haralambos, and he's saying, great insights, Michalimu. Do you think we can hack our brains in a way that I will be able to read your thoughts at some point?
Okay, there is always people that they're very intuitive. Seriously, I mean, there is people that they have great intuition, and there is different exercises to make your intuition even better, like to make it extremely sharp. Now, the new technologies is coming out, like the one of Elon Musk, that it will at some point like insert a chip in your brain and it will communicate with a computer. So eventually, either technology will bring us at a point that we'll be able to communicate telepathically, or we will grow as human beings and as consciousness that in my hallucination, yes, we will be, but that it will be in the future.
Okay, great. So that wraps up all of our questions for Michali.
Great.
Michali, thank you for being in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated. Thank you.